Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm so happy to have you here again with me. And if you're new, welcome. Make sure you subscribe, make sure that you like it so that we can get it out to more people. And today I am so excited to have Melanie Smithson. And she is a licensed somatic psychotherapist, a business owner, a certified spiritual integration hypnotherapist, and the award winning author of Stress Free in 30 Seconds. I love that. And the soon to be released Shake Yourself Free, 81 Somatic Practices to Let Go of Limitation. And she has a great compassion for and simultaneously finds comedic relief in the human experience. The body holds the wounds from the past, and for effective release, we must engage the body. Where the mind hesitates or pretends to let go, the body is happy to shake, rattle, and roll its way to freedom. And where the body goes, the mind will follow. And Melanie is an expert at blending therapeutic modalities in service to letting go and spiritual growth. And we just talked about how important it is to be able to let go in grief. And so I'm so happy that you were okay to have this conversation about grief with me today so that the people in the community can benefit. So thank you for taking the time.
Oh, as I said to you earlier, I really do love talking about grief. And it's interesting because so many people don't. So many people shy away from it. They don't know what to say when faced with grief.
Yeah.
But I, well, I know grief, so I know the experience, and I won't say that it's fun, but there is a softness, there's an opening, there's an authenticity that accompanies grief that we often don't see in people.
Yeah.
So what I'm really most interested in is seeing authenticity, and grief is part of that.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you bring up the authenticity thing because, right, probably a year after my husband died, it wasn't the first year because he passed away in October. And then um, I always did, some kind of vision board in January to start off the year. And I didn't that next year because I was not ready to set
Didn't
any
have a vision.
goals. But the following year, I did. And in the middle of that vision board, in big words, is authenticity. I just wanted to be or figure out who I was
Yeah,
authentically, right?
yeah, yeah.
Getting back to identity, like who am I now?
Yeah.
Because I related myself so much to
Yes.
being his wife and the
Yes.
mom, and I'm still a mom, but it's
Yeah.
I
I
had my
think of
job. I
the
had
song Landslide. I built my
Yeah.
life around you.
Yes, yes.
Who am
Yeah,
I without
and
you?
yeah. Yeah, so speak a little bit more about this authenticity that comes through these experiences.
Yeah. Well, first of all, when you're grieving, it's really kind of hard to put up all of those masks that we are so good at doing day to day.
Mhm.
It's like we, it's to me, this is such a funny thing that most people feel they can't be who they really are because it's not okay to be sad. It's not okay to be angry. It's not okay to be this. It's not okay to be that when interacting with others. And
Right.
so we put up this persona. Oh, I've got it all together. But the truth is that all of us are deeply attracted to people that are real with us.
Yeah.
And the people that are willing to tell the truth, the people that are willing to share their heart, the people that are willing to say, I'm hurting, that's what we're drawn to because that's the truth of who we are. So we're attracted to that which we are. And not always, but often grief shows more of that because we don't have the energy to put those masks on.
Right.
So, and in my therapy practice, it's interesting because therapeutically, in the first stages of grief, there's very little I can do. Words are empty. It's like there's nothing I can say to you that is not, that either you haven't already heard, or that's not patronizing, or that's not useless when somebody is torn apart, ripped to shreds.
Mhm.
And so typically I have a client that comes to me in grief, and often it'll be because of a pet, because people don't cancel their therapy appointments for a pet.
Right.
They'll cancel therapy appointments for a person, but not for a pet. But I've lost 5 dogs. And I'll tell you, that's been the most intense grief I've ever gone through. And so somebody comes to me and tells me that their cat died or their dog died, and I just sit and cry with them because that's all there is to do.
Mhm.
And we live in a society that really doesn't handle emotions well.
No.
And people don't know how to sit with somebody when they're crying. So there's a whole lot of, oh, it's going to be okay. They're in a better place now. You'll get through this. And it's like, bullshit. Leave me alone right now. I'm hurting. And the ability to just be with somebody while they're hurting. I mean, it's a gift, but most of us don't know how to do that.
Yeah. And I find that in the healing process, being acknowledged in that pain is so important
Yeah.
because we don't know how to acknowledge ourselves in that pain.
Right.
And
Right.
so having someone else say to you, this must be so painful
Right.
and I'm here for you. Those kinds of words have such power,
Yeah.
and having others around you that have experienced it and maybe have some knowledge.
Yeah.
I know we can't possibly know exactly what each
Right.
other's going through, but certainly have some knowledge around it really helps.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I think the other thing is, the time frame for grief.
Mm.
It's like it's non-existent.
Right.
That said, therapeutically, when people are still heavy in the grief process after a year or two, I'm going to check what else is going on. Is there something? Is there some guilt? Is there some loyalty? Is there something that's holding the grief in place? But more often, after 2 weeks, people think we should be back to normal.
Yeah.
It's like, no, no. I'm sorry, for my most recent direct grief was my nephew passed just over a year ago.
Mm.
That was pretty painful. But my dog, who passed 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago, Beatrice, most recent dog, it was a full year.
Mm.
And sure, there was, the first couple, 3 months were more intense. And actually, I want to say something else about that, but it was a year before I was like, okay, that feels like it is fully sequenced through.
Mm.
But there was a point with Beatrice, and I'm just bringing this up, even though you didn't ask it, but it was interesting. I found after a couple, 3 months, that I was really doing a lot better and I wasn't in the heavy throes of the grief, but I didn't want to let it go. And I was like, okay, what's happening? And what I was able to recognize was that grief is a respite.
Mm.
And it was a place that I could, like, hey, I don't have to meet the world. I'm grieving.
Right.
So there was a little bit of me that wanted to hold on to it just so that I could kind of keep hiding a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um,
And there's some comfort in that, I think, being
mhm.
to be in that space and not having to maybe push yourself outside of that.
Yeah.
And that's a delicate balance. I think a person needs to really be careful. You don't want to overdo and push everything aside,
Right.
and just go on with life and expect that you're going to be okay, because I found that doesn't work. I tried that. and, and at the same time, you don't want to you want to live a fulfilling and joyful life again.
Yes,
So,
yes.
yeah.
And your loved one who's gone, if we're talking grief around death,
Hmm.
they want you to live a good life. They don't want you grieving.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
we actually think that we're being disloyal, and we don't always think that. Some people think they're being disloyal if they stop grieving.
Yeah. 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 And do you think that's why? And I'm really gonna put something controversial out there now, but
Go for it. I love it.
there's this saying about grief is love that has nowhere to go or no place to go. And I was talking with another fellow who actually I'm going to interview later, but we were talking about the difference between love and grief and just that whole piece of, you know, not being able to fully let go of that pain because we associate it with our loved one. It's like it's what we have left.
Well,
And yeah.
it's so interesting because holding on to grief actually cuts us off from love.
Mm, yeah, let that sink in.
Yeah. So I know, and I do this other work. I'm trained by Michael Newton in Life Between Life hypnotherapy. In that work, I do 4-hour sessions where I take people to the other side in between lifetimes. And we meet with those who have passed. We meet with our counsel. We meet with our guides. And on the other side, they're fine. I mean, I always say that death is not for the living. The one that has passed has gone back to the essence of who they are. They have reconnected with spirit, with love, with everything. And I remember, I talk to an intuitive on a regular basis who talks to my dogs. And Beatrice is on the other side, and she's so happy. And I'm here crying my eyes out.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that the one who's passed has reconnected to all that they are.
Yes.
And when I am caught in grief, I'm not. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I'm not judging it. It's a process. We go through it. And as we move through it, we come back to all that we are. But the more that we are holding on, the more that we're grasping, not letting go, the more it's like we're grasping. And I love talking about this stuff because stuff comes to me that I was like, oh, I didn't see that before. But we're grasping. When we grasp anything, we're not opening to everything.
Right.
And the Course in Miracles says any little upset is the same as every big upset because anything can cut us off from all that we are. So when we're holding on to grief because we think it's keeping us connected, it's actually doing the opposite. It's keeping us caught in our eternal experience and not opening us up to all that is, which is where our loved ones are.
Right.
So
Yeah.
the more we can open, the more we can let go, the more we can feel their presence.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's interesting too, when I do the Life Between Life work, we experience a past life for the purpose of moving through death, because Dr. Newton found that was an easier way to transition into all that is. But when people are leaving the death scene of their last lifetime, I'll give them the opportunity to say, is there anything you want to do before we move on? Do you want to comfort anyone? And sometimes they'll say, well, I can't comfort them because they're too caught in their grief.
Mm,
And again, no judgment. It just is what happens.
right. Yeah. Yeah. And that makes perfect sense to me. I was so blessed to have an experience before Blaine passed where I somehow connected with him somewhere. I can't even
Yes.
explain it because it was an energetic feeling that I was
Yeah.
connecting with him in another space. It wasn't here on this earth, it was in another space. And we were sitting side by side, but I could feel this connection. It was like going up. And I held on to that because it was so profound for me.
Yes.
And
Yes.
after he passed, I was able to go back to
Remember it.
place
Yes.
and
Yes.
reconnect like that.
Yes.
And that was a huge kind of awakening for me, that I could feel his essence and his presence at any time.
Yeah.
And I think that was a big part of how I got through
Yes.
grief. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
That's really
But
cool. I'm glad that happened for you.
yeah, and I guess further to that, what you're saying is, when I was in the depths of grief and just in my lowest places, I couldn't make that connection. I had to actually go through the emotions, go through everything that was coming up, and then on the other side of that, I was able to open up and reconnect. But in that space, it's so
Right.
dark in there. It's just, ooh, it's rough.
It is rough. It's rough. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but the good thing is that as I went through that, um, and people talk about, the waves coming in of emotion, and I
Yes.
really resonate with that because it does just
Yes.
kind of hit you out of
Yes.
nowhere. And
Yep.
but once you've done that so many times, you realize that you will get through it, that you will
Right.
come back, right? Sometimes it's longer, bigger, and you,
Right.
uh-oh, this time I might not come back, but you do.
Well, it's the nature of emotions.
Mm,
And this is what I talk about a lot. Emotions, I talk about them as waves on the ocean, that they are designed to move through, and eventually they're going to complete. They're going to hit the sand, and they're going to be done. And they
mhm.
might be big waves, they might be slow waves, they might be fast waves, they might be intense waves. What we tend to do as humans is decide, I don't like that wave.
Right.
And when a wave comes through, instead of just letting it come and hit the sand, or however long it takes, however big it is, we decide we're going to try and stop it in its tracks. Unfortunately, we're too good at that. And we
Mm,
do, we can do that. But when we stop the feeling, we hold it in the body.
right.
And then we're stuck with it. So the key to moving through grief, and really any feeling, is non-resistance. Again, I say these things, as if like, just do that, as if it
Yeah.
was easy. And I know it's not.
Yeah.
But, how can I allow everything to move through me? And that's where, life becomes, like you and I started talking about, life becomes a dance of constant grief, because we are always letting go of something. In every moment, we're letting go of the breath. Every day, we let go at the end of the day. We let go of projects. We let go of relationships. I mean, some of my breakups were some of the biggest grief I ever
Yeah.
experienced.
Mhm.
And how do we let the heart break?
Right.
And I talk about, and this is one of those gifts that when I was in my 20s, when I was going through an intense breakup, I just happened to be reading Dan Millman's Way of the Peaceful Warrior. And I don't know if you're familiar with that book, but he talks about going through heartbreak as, rather than seeing it as the heart breaking, but seeing it as the heart breaking open and
Mhm.
letting in more light.
Right.
And that stayed with me. And it's really been a gift, where it's like, okay, more pain, more opening, more light.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel that too. And I got so that when those emotions started to hit, I was like, oh, and I would get curious about, where this was all coming from. Why am I feeling like this? And I always seem to find, maybe not always, but lots of times, I could identify, um, where that emotion was coming from, what thought was creating that, what circumstance was putting me there. And I could put myself in a place and have some compassion for myself going through that. And sometimes I just had no idea why.
Right. Well, I will tell you, asking why do I feel something is often counterproductive.
Mm.
Every once in a while, you might have some recognition and it could give you some comfort, as you said. But first of all, Course in Miracles says, I am never upset for the reason I think.
Ah, yes.
So all this trying to figure out why we're upset, it's often just something for the mind.
Yeah.
But coming back into recognizing upset as arising, and by the way, that's another piece of information for anybody grieving or going through any feeling. The more you can step out of it, instead of saying, I'm angry, I'm upset, I'm grieving, and move into recognizing that a feeling is arising.
Mm.
It gives you just enough distance from it that it can move a little bit, a little quicker, a little with less blockage. Because when we get identified with a feeling, it makes it a little bit more solid.
Right.
So, but the more that we can come back into what's happening in the body, because we hold all emotions in sensation.
Mm.
So if I notice there's some agitation happening in me, but I don't know what it is, and I start to notice, oh, my jaw's a little tight, my throat is, constricted. Can I breathe with that? Can I soften to that? Can I open to that? Then I might actually get some information about what's happening, or it might just move, which is also fine.
Right. Right.
Because I always ask the question, well, would you rather understand or would you rather be free?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times understanding is a mind game to avoid feeling.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I totally resonate with the whole idea of where I thought maybe I knew what it was about, but there was so much deeper stuff
Right.
underneath
And
the
it's like now like this deeper stuff, it's like I might think I'm upset because my husband didn't do what he said he was going to do, or my husband did something to the dog. But where I'm really upset is because I ate sugar yesterday, or I didn't sleep well, or something like that. And I'm just looking for a target.
Right.
So, but even beyond that, because so they're the known quantities, but then there's like, what are the planets doing? What's the
Mm-hmm.
earth doing? How are all of these affecting me and my psyche? So
Right.
that's why it's like trying to figure out anything is really crazy, because we are always, this came up in one of the Life Between Life sessions, we are always dealing with insufficient information.
Yeah.
Always.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So I guess that's where, the whole key to surrendering and allowing comes in, and not trying to, well, you could drive yourself crazy trying to figure this out.
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And people do all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's how we start, or that's how I started anyways. It was, I would have these little epiphanies like, oh, I know what's going on, you know. And then I just got okay, and I think I'm still working through that. Just okay with the whole idea that yeah, there is something coming up right now, and it will pass, whatever it is.
Yeah. Because
Um
everything does.
yeah. Yeah, everything does.
Everything does.
Absolutely everything. Yeah. Yeah. And I think the sooner that we get, I want to talk more about the letting go piece, because I think the sooner that we understand that and can find the joy through that, because it's almost like, well, if we're always letting go, then what's the point, right? Like it's like you can get a little cynical with that.
And people do. And I always have to explain why I am so committed to letting go. So,
Yeah, so let's talk more about that.
yeah. So, I have been teaching letting go for my all the years of my practice, but in 2006, I got trained in the Sedona method, which is specifically a practice on letting go. But I teach letting go through the Sedona method, um, through movement, through the body, through play, and letting go. First of all, letting go in and of itself is a spiritual practice,
Mm.
because the only thing we can let go of is that which we are not.
Ah, yes.
So I'm going to say that again because that's, kind of important. The only things we can let go of are the things that are not authentically us. That which we are cannot be let go of. We're always going to come back to that. So what there is to let go of is the programming, are the feelings, are the thoughts that don't serve. It's everything that is in the way of reconnecting with that which we are. So letting go to me is like, I mean, it really is. It's my religion. When people ask, if you were only going to give people, one piece of advice, let go, let go, let go. Because the more I let go of that which I'm not, the more connected I am to all that I am. And that's fun. That's where joy starts to arise. So when people say to me, well, if you let go of everything, you're never going to want to do anything. Oh, no, that is not true. The more I let go of all of this programming, the more I let go of these feelings that are in the way, the more I let go of the thoughts that tell me I'm not good enough, not smart enough, then I can connect with the joy that wants to do stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I really get to show up.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, my primary practice is movement. And I practice right now, mostly I'm doing 5 rhythms, but I've done soul motion and other types of conscious dance. And in the practice of conscious dance, it's a practice of listening to how the body wants to move, following the body instead of the mind.
Mm.
And the body always knows what wants to move and how it wants to move and how it wants to release. But often when I show up in dance class, there's a thought, sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't, because I've really gotten to a place of like, wonder what's going to move now. But sometimes I'll just say, hey, let's just move everything that's in the way of freedom, everything that limits me. I'm giving it all over. And, to tie this back to grief, the more we practice letting go of everything every day, the more we can meet grief, the more we can recognize it as part of life. And I mean, yeah, it's a part we don't like. I remember one time we were in Sedona, and this was really fun. Hale, the head of Sedona, was talking to somebody about grief and how we all go back to being part of the ocean, part of the wave, and it's that which we are. And another woman stands up and says, okay, I get all of this, and I, just lost somebody, and I don't want him to be a wave on the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that too, while we're in bodies, I want my dog back. I want my nephew back. You want your husband back,
Mm.
and still recognizing this is the nature of life. Everything comes and goes, comes and goes, comes and goes. And the more I can surrender to that now, the easier the hard grief will be on me.
Mm-hmm.
I hope.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's just, I think that people are afraid. There's a lot of fear. Um, and I know this from experiences
Yes.
that I used to think that, I would take out some of his clothes and I would like smell it, and then I couldn't really smell him, or I couldn't remember his voice in my head. I couldn't. And I was seeking out that. I'd try to find, videos on my phone and listen to him talking, and I would try to get reconnected with that. And then there was a point at which I realized that none of that was him. And when I realized that, And I think it was actually when I was starting to let go of some of his things. I was putting them
Mhm.
away in a bag, and that was when I
Yeah.
started to realize that each time I put something in the bag, I was crying and I was remembering, and I realized, but this none of this. I mean,
Is it?
there's memories, and I'm cherishing those, and I'm holding on to those memories, especially those really good ones,
Yes.
and all of the love. I can keep all that forever, but
Yes.
those things are not him.
No. And it's interesting because the body was also not him.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
my first big grief experience, first I can remember, I'm pretty sure it was my dad who, well, I was just about 30 when my dad passed. And I remember there was an open casket and I looked at his body and I was like, well, he's not in there. And this is long before I did all the work I've done now. I was like, that's clearly an empty shell. And that was interesting to see the empty body.
Yeah,
And yet, there's so much fear. And there's so many things that we're not doing right about recognizing feelings and truth and moving through fear in the society. It's like if we would just teach children how to feel their feelings at 10 years, it's like at 3, 4, 5, they're pretty good, but then we start shutting them down
yeah.
and we all learn to suppress our feelings.
Mhm.
And then we go into fear. But I think most of the world's problems could be solved by teaching people how to feel feelings.
Absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree. And I think that a lot of illness and the things that we struggle with, anxiety, depression, and all of those things can largely be attributed to hanging on to and holding back
Yes.
um, emotions
Yes.
that we just
Yeah.
need to.
I actually think of both depression and anxiety as a blanket over feelings.
Mm,
So, how do we bring that aliveness back? But I'll tell you, my husband does really advanced crazy energy medicine, and he treats things like MS and autoimmune disorders and allergies and colds. I mean, everything, because the body knows how to heal.
mm,
But almost always, the first treatment he's got to do with somebody is on stress and suppressed emotions.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's like, because again, it's like, I don't know if I said this or I don't think I said this, but when we're young and we are, for whatever reason, not even necessarily taught, but that we learn that we aren't allowed to show our feelings. And it could be because somebody told us don't do it. It could be because somebody in the house is more important. It could be because somebody is drinking and it's scary. I mean, there's so many reasons we learn to suppress our feelings, but they get suppressed in the body.
Mhm.
So there's one book that says buried emotions never die. And that really does sum it up because it's like we store them in the body, which is why I am such a huge advocate for somatic psychotherapy. Somatic psychotherapy is the process of going back into the body and letting those emotions come up. And it's more than that, but that's part of it. How do we find what we stuffed down because it wasn't allowed when we were 5 or 10 and bring it up so that it can release
Mhm.
and let go?
Yeah, 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 exactly. Yeah. Well, this is amazing. So tell us more about how people can find you, connect with you.
Well, the easiest way is to go to my website, smithsonclinic.com. Um, I have a special page dedicated to podcast listeners, smithsonclinic.com/podcast. And that's got the book. But also, if anybody's interested in past life, life between life, there is a page dedicated. It's actually smithsonclinic.com/life between lives. But all of my information is at Smithson, SMITHSON. It's such an easy name, but it doesn't roll off the tongue. we thank my husband for that one. Smithsonclinic.com has all my contact information.
Okay, we'll make sure we have that link.
Yeah. And I'm doing free webinars. I actually just did one on moving with anxiety and fear. And next month, it's not up yet, but it'll be up on the website soon. Getting ready. How do we move through relationships with the holidays coming up?
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
wow.
Nothing like family to bring up some of our issues.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And don't you think, we all have a part in each other's lives of, triggering little things that we can learn and grow through. And, when people rub me the wrong way now, I sure look at it in a different light. It's always looking at me and what,
Right. It's all projection, or they say all
yeah,
smoke and mirrors, you
yeah,
know. But like, why is that so irritating?
yeah.
I might have done that myself once or twice.
Yeah, that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
So
And I
this sounds
love when it's like
interesting.
when you get, one of the things is like people get so mad at the selfish one in the family.
Mm.
And it's like, if you're being honest, don't you wish you were a little more selfish? You know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I remember, and I still am working through some of this. I always say that because I don't think I ever really but I have this being a principal and a teacher, like this um, level of respect, a bar that's been set. You
Right,
don't do certain things because
right,
it's disrespectful and you
right,
should be committed and
right,
like all of this stuff.
right.
And when people do that and it triggers me,
Yeah.
I always think, it's because I wish I could be a little bit more like that.
Yes, yes. And
Yeah.
what I tell people when they recognize that thing, I tell them to go for it in ways that feel safe.
Yeah.
So obviously you're not going to go, tell somebody who's important to you to go shove it up their butt, whatever. But if you like walk around the house, or even like I had a dance teacher, I loved this. She talked about how when we meet people on the street, we all have this kind of fake smile when really what we want to do is go. I was never actually brave enough to do that to anyone on the street, but I started doing it after they passed by and couldn't see me. And then when we started wearing masks, well, that made it really easy. So you think I'm smiling into the mask, but really I'm going.
Yeah.
So finding a place to let that out where it feels safe.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have to ask about Yoda.
He's my bud. I mean, he's just so wise.
He is.
He's so wise.
Everybody loves Yoda.
And I'll tell you something. So Yoda speaks. Oh no, battery's down now. But he's got like 5 or 6 sayings. But he set up that you have to push the button and then he speaks. Well, years ago, when my clinic was downstairs in the house, and we had in-person groups before COVID, before all the online stuff. Every once in a while, Yoda would out of nowhere go, flow, feel the force. It was so random, but these were groups on letting go.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know. From all the Star Wars stuff, I am not a Star Wars freak, but I am a huge Yoda fan. So
No,
he
that's
hangs
so
out.
cool. So cool. It was like me and my penguin fetish. I have a bit of a penguin fetish.
Nice. We need our fetishes.
Yeah. So is there anything else that you'd like to share that you haven't got an opportunity to, advice, wisdom before we go?
Yeah, I do. I did a session with somebody a couple of weeks ago, and I think it was right when I was responding to you. And she was in the process of clearing out her brother's home. And she was telling me that she's just feeling so tired.
Mm.
And, the first question I ask is, well, have you let yourself grieve? And she said, oh, yeah, I'm telling everybody about it. It's like, no, that is not letting yourself grieve. And, have you let yourself feel what's happening in your body? So in the session with her, we just sat and opened to the sadness, the loss, and actually not just her loss, but the sadness about his life. I think that's another piece. It's like there's so many pieces around grief that are complicated. It's, well, I'm glad he's gone and he's not suffering, but where's the life he didn't get to live?
Mm.
And so, recognizing all the different aspects of grief. But anyway, she came into, feeling the heaviness in her heart, her chest, the sensations. And, she just let herself be with it for 2 minutes. 2 minutes. It doesn't take long.
Mm.
And it started to move through. And then she felt better. But talking about grief is not the same as feeling grief.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the thing I want people to know. It's like you can't talk yourself through this. You have to feel yourself through it.
Wow, that's a really good point right there and hasn't been said near enough. So thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah,
And all that you've shared today. And I hope people go and check out your website and find
yeah,
out all that you have to offer. And
yeah.
it looks like, I think you would be fun to work with. I think people would like that. And it's good to laugh and have a
It's
little bit
good
of
to
fun.
laugh.
Yeah.
Joni Mitchell said laughing and crying, it's the same release.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So why not laugh?
Laugh. Laugh through the tears. Like
Yeah.
in Field Magnolias, they talk about that feeling of laughing through the tears being so profound. And
Mhm.
yeah, laugh and
Yeah.
cry. It's all good.
Beautiful. Yeah. Well, thank you again for
Mhm.
everything. And I
Yeah.
want to thank everyone for watching, and bye for now.